Hello everyone and welcome. I hope everybody can hear me. So yes, welcome to Idling Action London's Engine Off Every Stop launch. My name is Jack. I am one of the project officers working on Idling Action London. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. This is our first time hosting a Teams live event, so please be patient with us if we have some technical issues. I'll start with housekeeping. So this seminar is going to be recorded. Other than our speakers, guests will not be visible, so if you don't want to be recorded, please bear this in mind. The recording will be made available on the Idling Action website afterwards. About question and answers, please use the Q&A tab on the right-hand side of the video. We've got a lot to cram in today, so we might not be able to answer all questions, but we will be providing written responses throughout the session, kind of for ease and speed. Answered questions will be published and will become visible to the rest of the audience. We have time at the end to recap and so that we can highlight responses that might be worth sharing for the whole group. I know that there are some in the audience today who are already working with Idling Action. Some might be partners of the project and some might be prospective partners, volunteers, supporters, and there might even be some of you who are totally new to the project and have never heard about Idling Action at all. So this afternoon we want to celebrate the launch of Engine Off Every Stop campaign and give a first look at campaign resources. And we're also going to be share ways that you can get involved with the campaign and have a look at some other aspects of our work as well. So we're going to take you through kind of what the project's about and some great ways of getting involved and of taking Engine Off Every Stop a bit further too. So our speakers today are Matthew, Senior Policy and Programme Officer in the GLA's Air Quality team. I think we have Councillor Adam Harrison, Cabinet Member for a Sustainable Camden. We might have some issues with him joining the call, but I'll keep you posted. We are joined by Sabrina, Climate Change and Sustainability Officer at Lambeth, and Lily, Environmental Control Officer at Newham Council. We also have Lynne Potter from Mace UK. So really lucky to have some great speakers. I am going to pass on to Matt, first of all, who's going to talk about some of GLA's involvement in the project. Thank you, Matt.
Great, thanks, Jack. Good afternoon, everyone. So the Idling Action project is funded through the Mayor's Air Quality Fund, and it sees local authorities working together to tackle engine idling. The project has been running since 2016 and has grown year upon year, supporting boroughs in organising anti-idling events to raise awareness and developing enforcement mechanisms to deter repeat offenders from idling. So the aim of this London-wide campaign is to reduce unnecessarily engine idling and raise a profile of air quality and idling engines as a source of air pollution. This is so important as idling engines produce avoidable pollution and contribute to London's air quality health crisis. Long-term exposure to poor air quality has been proven to lead to asthma, lung disease, heart disease, restricted lung development in the young, and cost the NHS and the economy billions every year. Our recent analysis has shown that long-term exposure to air pollution contributed to the deaths of more than 4,000 Londoners in 2019 alone. Our London Environment Strategy sets out a commitment to reduce emissions from London's road transport network. This project is one part of the package of measures required to drive down transport emissions. And whilst we need the investment in electric vehicles and charging infrastructure to ensure our recovery from COVID-19 is a green one, we also need to raise awareness of the impact engine idling has throughout our city. This campaign highlights a simple action that all drivers must remember to take to help improve the air we breathe. Engine off every stop.
You're muted, Jack.
Muted, of course I'm muted, that's the name of the game. Can I check, have we got Councillor Harrison on the call? Because we've been having a couple of difficulties. We don't. So I'm now going to pass over to Tom Parks, who's a Senior Air Quality Officer at Camden, who's going to give a really kind of brief overview of some of the topics that Councillor Harrison was going to talk about. So can I pass over to you, Tom?
Hi. Yes, thank you, Jack. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so unfortunately, Councillor Harrison wasn't able to join the call. Such is the nature of doing these events virtually. So I'll just very quickly talk to you about how the Idling Action project and the Engine Off Every Stop campaign helps to deliver against Camden's policies and strategies on air quality and climate. So in just a quick overview for people who aren't familiar with what we're working on locally in Camden. 2018, we formally adopted the World Health Organization air quality standards to be met by 2030, in line with what the Mayor of London is working towards. And in 2019, we declared climate and ecological emergency. And we now have ambitious targets across both the air quality and the climate programs at local level in Camden. And I think the key thing for us is that lots of these strategies and lots of the action that we're trying to take to improve air quality, to address the climate crisis in Camden, really revolves around the necessity of collaborative and partnership working. And I think this the Idling Action project, in which we have Camden, City of London and 29 other local authorities, as well as the Engine Off Every campaign, which brings in businesses and other organisations around the city, is so crucial, and it fits in perfectly with what we're trying to do locally as well. I think we really recognise that we have to work together truly to try and do whatever we can to improve air quality and protect the health of all Londoners, but especially those who are most vulnerable to the effects of exposure to air pollution. So that's all I'll say really from Camden's perspective. I'll pass back on to Jack. So yeah, thanks, Jack.
Thanks so much, Tom, and thanks for diving in at the last minute. Yes, I think really important to highlight the kind of really collaborative nature of what we do with Idling Action. Kind of initiatives like this, working across 31 London boroughs, are kind of quite special, and we've kind of got input from lots of different parts of the city, lots of different contexts as well. So I'm now going to pass over to Sabrina, who is Climate Change and Sustainability Officer at the London Borough of Lambeth, to talk about some of what Idling Action has been up to in Lambeth. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thanks, Jack. Hi everyone, I'm Sabrina and I work for London Borough of Lambeth, and I'm here to talk about, as Jack said, what we are doing at Lambeth to tackle idling. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So Lambeth is an inner London borough, the borough here on the right-hand side in the picture. We are an inner London borough and we experience high volumes of traffic moving through the borough and within the borough. And as a result of that, we experience high levels of air pollution, particularly nitrogen dioxide, which is a very powerful air pollutant. And here in the map, you can see that the concentrations of these powerful air pollutants are higher on the streets, on our roads, and in the center of, in the north of the borough. Given all of these high levels of traffic, we also experience idling, is a major issue in Lambeth. We believe that it's an unnecessary act, which causes air pollution and damages the health of our residents. Most of our residents are, I would say, aware of the impact of idling, and we therefore receive regular complaints and reports from those of our residents who experience idling happening, for example, in front of their house or in the area where they live. And therefore, we are willing to take action on idling. Can I have the next slide, please? So what are we doing to tackle idling? Since May 2020, idling is a finable offence across the borough, which means that if our enforcement team finds an idling driver in the borough, they ask the driver to switch off, and if the driver doesn't switch off, he may get a fine. All of our enforcement officers, so civil, highways and environmental enforcement officers, are trained on anti-idling measures, and some of them are provided with high visibility vests with no idling logos, like the one you can see here on the right hand side. Ever since we started fining idling, we have been issuing only 25 fines, and that is a result of essentially behavior change and awareness raising run by our enforcement team. As soon as the enforcement team approaches the driver, most of the time the drivers switch off their engine or drive away, and that is part of our awareness raising and behavior change campaign happening through our enforcement team. We are aware that our enforcement team cannot be everywhere all the time, and in order to support and supplement the enforcement happening in Lambeth, we are looking in 2021 to install 200 anti-idling signs across the borough, particularly at idling hotspots and at schools. Next slide, please. Thanks. So this is what we have been doing since we started partnering with Idling Action London. We have been delivering, so since 2019, 17 anti-idling events in primary and secondary schools across the borough, engaging over 460 children and parents in some form of anti-idling assemblies, workshops, events, or conversations. We have delivered 4 events with the community, that is essentially our residents or community organizations that are particularly keen on running events where they live because they know about the impact of idling and they want to take action in their local area. So we run an anti-idling event with them, and as a result of those events, 25 residents are now trained on anti-idling measures. We also run 2 workshops with parents in schools, and we have 1 upcoming workshop at a nursery, and this is since the pandemic started and we have been unable to deliver them in person. We are looking to go essentially above and beyond the simple enforcement and awareness raising. We are looking to add idling as a requirement in our plans and policies. For instance, idling is a requirement during tender processes now. As an example, we are looking to commission an organization to provide taxi services, so transport services to adults and children with disabilities and special need. As part of that tender, we ask the commissioned organization to undertake a mandatory anti-idling training to be refreshed every year, delivered by Idling Action London, and to commit publicly not to idle. And we've also received lots of anti-idling material from Idling Action London, which has been distributed to our schools. Next slide, please. Thanks. Thanks to the partnership with Idling Action London, we now have a system to deal with residents' complaints. So as soon as we receive a report or a complaint from our resident about idling happening in their local area or on the street, we, as the air quality team, contact the enforcement team and ask that an enforcement officer is sent to patrol the area more often for a period of 2 or 3 weeks. And then we ask the resident whether they would like to join an anti-idling event delivered by Idling Action London in their local area. And these are a few quotes and messages from that we have received from our residents when we suggested running a training. So they're all very positive and they look forward to join our events as soon as possible. Next. Thank you. These are a few images from a number of events that we've run with the community group, with community groups, with our councillors and businesses and community members, as well as schools. At the bottom, you can see the children and some of our Lambeth officers delivering leaflets to idling drivers at the end of our schools assemblies, or playing an anti-idling game altogether. Next. At the end of the events that we run in schools, we often ask the children to summarize their thoughts on idling using some sort of creative material and posters, and this is what they have been produced at Woodmanstern, one of our primary schools in Lambeth. And so these posters all say, "Don't idle, leave idling behind," and our favorite slogan, "Don't be mean, help our air be clean." Finally, in September 2020, we trained our fleet managers on anti-idling measures. That started with an online training and then developed into a more comprehensive workshop run by Idling Action London and attended by our fleet managers. Lambeth also took the engines off pledge. Now we are aware that we are a complex borough with multiple operations happening at the same time during the day everywhere in the borough. We have a lot of staff driving around the borough, and we are aware that not everyone would be aware of the engines off pledge. So what we're looking to do in the next couple of months is to ensure that everyone in Lambeth, all of our operational team, are aware that we have taken this pledge and that idling is not accepted as a practice in the borough. And we're looking to continue to work with Idling Action London on their campaigns like the Engines Off Every Stop campaign, and to continue to tackle idling in Lambeth. So thank you. And if you have any questions, I look forward to answer them in the Q&A box. And if you have questions after the event, please feel free to email sustainability@lambeth.gov.uk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. Yes, really great to hear about the support that Idling Action's had from residents in Lambeth, and the kind of mandate that we've got to do our work and interventions. Our kind of supporters and volunteers are a really essential part of what we do. I'm a Lambeth resident, so it's really heartening and reassuring to see civil enforcement officers with the I'm No Idler logo on their uniforms when I'm kind of out and about and not at work. So it's kind of really great to see leadership from Lambeth right the way through to including kind of no idling stipulations in tenders and contracts is just really fantastic. So now I would like to pass on to Lily, who is an Environmental Control Officer at Newham Council. Lily, do you want to take it away?
Yes. Thank you so much, Jack, for your introduction. There was meant to be a short video, Natalie. Are you going to play it, or? Thank you.
Idling Action is about against those drivers who just put their cars on the curbside, on our high. And leave the engines on. And what's really bad about that is that those vehicles largely, unless it's a hybrid or an electrical car, emit these toxic, poisonous fumes that are sending too many of our young people into hospital. 4,500 young children are going into hospital every year here in the borough, the highest in the country, but also over 100 people are dying each year because of the bad air quality.
If you could just unmute yourself, Lily.
Of course, learning from the best, Jack. So this short video is just a 30-second clip of a longer version that we filmed together with our Climate Now youth ambassadors to help the launch the campaign in the borough. I would highly recommend watching the full version so you can hear more about what we are doing in the borough to improve air quality for all. Next slide, Natalie. So agenda for today is just a whistle-stop overview of what we've done in the last year, followed by a more in-depth presentation on about the campaign and what we did locally, as well as our wide ambitions. Next slide, Natalie. So at Newham, we adopted anti-idling action in late 2019, and as you saw, our Mayor Roxana Fias is a huge advocate of the program. The first thing we did was designed and launched an online page, as well as arranged a number of training sessions for our enforcement officers. So the training course was primarily about why we're doing this, why it is important for us in the borough to stop idling, and also teach enforcement officers how to speak to the drivers when caught idling. And in addition, we produced informative flyers for the officers to take away and to give to motorists on patrol. Next slide, Natalie, please. Probably like most of the boroughs, we haven't been able to do the same work this year in schools as planned because of the pandemic. So instead, we installed anti-idling signs outside all our primary schools and designed online teaching resource for both primary and secondary school students, which is also available to download from our website. It has been downloaded 56 times since, and that is more than our initial target of 5 schools a year. Next slide, please, Natalie. We also delivered 2 online sessions for our employees, and which were attended by 40 employees. We recorded a webinar and arranged for the webinar to be uploaded on our internal sort of staff CPD learning online platform. So it is available on demand as well for anyone who missed it or new employees to view it. And following, we also arranged Train the Trainer course for our fleet managers. And in addition to this training, we also created our own online driver training toolkit, which consists of about 30-minute long video followed by a test. So far, face-to-face, we trained 65 drivers out of 600, but hopefully now that we launched this online training toolkit, we can also accelerate training and make it available to all. And to support the message, we are also displaying anti-idling banners in all our depots and inserted informative flyers in all our fleet vehicles. Additionally, we bought a new software which monitors and records driver behavior, such as speed, braking, and monitoring emissions and fuel consumption from idling. That system also produces a risk score that is either green, amber, or red, and that way we can identify which drivers might need a little bit of extra support in training and take actions. This year, we are looking to install this system in 50% of our vehicles and the remaining 50 in 2022. Also, we replaced diesel with gas to liquid fuel as part of our green fleet management system. And the e-cargo you see in the photo is not entirely part of the fleet, but I did use it to deliver anti-idling banners to our primary schools. And I'm hoping that we can use bike more often for small jobs as such in the borough. Next slide, please, Natalie. So when Natalie announced Idling Action's plans to launch the London-wide campaign, we knew immediately that this is, we wanted to go big and we wanted to reach out to as many residents as possible. This was the perfect opportunity for us, so to say, a piggy ride, especially because we couldn't continue our work as expected with schools. To reach motorists, we started by analyzing Newham's map and identifying different hotspots. So together with our Parks and Highways team, we created a map and allocated 32 suitable locations for the banners facing major and busiest roads in the borough, and that also we know that are the most polluted. We chose parks as well because more people visit parks these days more than ever. And we sent a newsletter to all our businesses in the borough asking to engage, attend webinars, and signed up to driver training. And to reach our residents, we launched the online campaign. And because not everyone has online access or access to social media, we also produced posters for GP surgeries, health centers, and hospitals. And even so, currently our schools and libraries are closed. We also produced posters for schools and digital library screens. Additionally, we ask for support from our local partners. So our local developers and construction sites, as well as London City Airport, Westfield Stratford City, and our partners, London Legacy Development Corporation, LLDC, were the most apparent choices. The airport is currently operating only a small number of flights, and most staff are working from home. So instead, they expressed interest to supporting us maybe in the summer or as soon as the airport is in full operation again. Westfield Stratford City is one of Europe's busiest shopping centres and one of the largest retail destinations in the UK. It offers a wealth of lifestyle outlets as well as mini parks and hubs for meetings. It is an important hub in East London as well as the borough of Newham. And luckily to us, we didn't have to do a lot of work to persuade Westfield to join us, because they have already impressive sustainability and environmental plans that and idling action fitted in perfectly well within their broader agenda. So we produced assets in digital for digital screens that are typically paid. And the organization also offered us to use their internal communications to share the campaign with partners and suppliers. The LLDC were just as engaging and enthusiastic about the campaign. After our first meeting, as you can see in one of the photos, they offered us to use their Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park for advertising and support through internal communications, as well as access to the development sites on LLDC land. So in total, we delivered 35 banners and 170 posters to all our major construction sites in the borough. And we are so grateful we have received this tremendous support so far. And I am hoping that other businesses in the borough will follow. Natalie, next slide, please. So the design you see on the screen, we produced additionally for the back of the parking tickets. And our wider ambitions are to continue to work internally. I would like to see more of our staff engaged in the program, as well as our local businesses. These two will be our primary focus this year. I am also very excited to receive more data on the emissions and fuel costs from idling from the new software that was purchased by the refuse team. And we can then use that data to demonstrate the incentives and use it for our wider air quality communications strategy. Next slide, please, Natalie. And I just wanted to say that it has been so gratifying to work with different teams across the borough. We learn so much from each other, and I think we often miss and overlook the benefits and positives of cross-organizational collaborations because we are so focused on the project delivery. If I was asked to give one advice to all other boroughs, I would just say, take it and run with it. You have all the support needed provided by Natalie and Jack from Idling Action. This is your best opportunity not only to tackle air pollution, but also to reach out to broader public, engage with the youngest residents, talk to parents, and learn about school environments. There is no other project that I can think of that has so many fantastic benefits all in one. A huge thank you to Natalie, Jack, and Tom from Camden, and everyone in the borough, my colleagues, residents, and supporters. And thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I look forward to working with you for another year. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. That was so lovely. Yes, brilliant. I would really recommend that video from Mayor Fayaz on, I think it's available on Newham's web pages, and we'll be sharing it shortly, because it's really great to have such an impassioned advocate for our work on idling and air quality. Really great to hear your work pushing for extra engagement with schools. Working with schools is something that's really central to our work with Idling Action, not just because they're idling hotspots, but because young people are so much more vulnerable to the effects of exhaust fumes from idling engines. So really fantastic to see that extra work, making banners and the like for your schools. And yes, and again, showing leadership with engines off training and coming up with new ways to get that out to Newham drivers and Newham staff, which is really fantastic. And it was really exciting to see the engines off every stop advert on your construction sites and on the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park site. That was really exciting for us. Such a kind of iconic landmark to have our project messaging on was just really cool. So now I would like to introduce Lynne Potter from Mace UK. Mace are a construction company. I'll kind of leave Lynne to introduce a little bit, who are partners of ours who are doing work on idling associated with the Engines Off campaign, which we're using to target businesses across London. Take it away, Lynne.
Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me to speak today. If we move on to the first slide, as Jack just mentioned there, for those people that aren't familiar with Mace already, we're a construction consultancy, development and facilities management business. I predominantly work in the construction part of the business, and as you can see from the London skyline picture there, one of our most famous projects is the Shard. I've recently been working on Shard Place, which is one of the projects immediately next door to it. So I'm just going to talk through a couple of slides, a little bit about what we're doing as Mace on air pollution and air quality, and a little bit specifically about one of our particular projects and our engagement in the Engines Off campaign. So working in central London for a lot of our construction projects, we have lots of operatives who work predominantly outside with potentially high exposure to air pollution. So we need to ensure that we as Mace and our subcontractors are working to consciously and consistently improve air quality where we can on our projects. So some of the things that we have in place as standard include our no idling policy. So this is a Mace policy that's as standard across all of our Mace sites. So this includes vehicles coming to site if they're delivering materials, waste away, and it also includes our plant that's on site. So whatever that may be, we have this policy in place to cover all of those. We also have an air quality action plan. Again, this is as standard across all of our construction sites, and this is something that we have as a live document, so it's updated throughout the construction life cycle. And some of the items that it includes are things like our noise, dust and vibration monitors, which are on site, getting the information from that to be able to report to clients and the local authority, to be able to go out and mitigate on site when we have alerts. Things like dust suppression, so making sure that we use misting in the most efficient ways of doing the dust suppression on site, particularly in the early stages, and things like dust extraction on tools. So these aren't exclusive to sustainability, they cover environmental, health, safety and wellbeing and logistics. And the idea of this document that we have in place is that everyone in the site team has their role to play, everyone has their specific responsibilities, and myself as a sustainability manager will help coordinate and pull all of that information together to make sure we're doing as much as we can across all of our projects. So we also have a big focus on clean technology, so looking at alternatives and trialling different options on some of our sites, which I'll come on to more in a little bit in a moment. But we do also have a lot of resources, so in collaboration with our net zero carbon strategy, which we launched last year, we have resources such as our clean tech brochure, which you can see there. So that provides information to our Mace team as well as our tier 1 contractors of alternatives. So rather than using diesel powered plant, looking at alternatives that are hybrid, electric or hydrogen wherever we can. We're also reducing unnecessary business travel. So obviously with everything last year, COVID has massively accelerated this agenda, and using platforms such as Teams as we are today and encouraging the use of that. We also work with our supply chain looking at what vehicles are brought to site. So as standard across all of our Mace sites, all vehicles must be Force Silver, which while it's a health and safety predominant criteria, it does also include environmental credentials as well for carbon emissions. And also non-road mobile machinery, NRMM. So this is our plants such as meeps and cherry pickers that we've got on our actual construction site. So making sure that they meet the standard requirements for carbon emissions and pushing it to the next level of clean technology where we can for swapping out alternatives where we've got these better options. So if you move on to the next slide, I'm just going to talk a little bit about one of our specific projects that I work on, which is 40 Leadenhall in the City of London. So as you can see from the middle bottom picture there, that is what it will look like in 2 or 3 years time. We're not quite there just yet, but that is the project that you can see there, City of London, just next to the gherkin that you can see there. So we engaged with the Engines Off campaign back in November for the first time. So we signed up to the pledge, and I think that was really important for us as Mace because we believe that air quality is a really important sustainability topic. We want to make sure that we're on the forefront of the work that we're doing on this, and it also makes sense that we want to support our local authorities with this as well, make sure that we're aligned. And we've also been encouraging our contractors on site to sign up, which we will continue to do so now for the duration of the project. We've also made use of the resources for Mason contractors for the online training. So we've issued this out to the Mace team, and it was also issued out as a toolbox talk for our contractors. This is something that contractors can run with their teams, and we collated the registers back as confirmation that that had been completed. We used some of the official signage, so we use that across both of our site offices that we have, using it printed on our digital screens in Mason contractor areas. We've got external notice boards, so we utilise those as well as our digital screen on our site hoarding. We also included the campaign in our local newsletter back in November, so you can see an image of that in the top right there with some of the familiar looking resources. And we also shared some of this work with the client bodies for the project. So it's really good as an awareness piece, upskilling the team and making people understand why it's a particularly important topic. And some of the things that have come out of that, the final 4 points there, are because we've got that awareness, it's been much easier to engage and push some of the new initiatives that we would like to do. So some of these include HVO Green D+. So this is essentially a form of biofuel. So as you can see from the infographic there, it's got a few positives that make it that bit better than diesel fuel. So there's 30% reduction in NOx emissions, 86% reduction in particulate matter, and the big one being 90% reduction in carbon dioxide equivalent. So where we can't currently have, or we don't have a feasible option to remove diesel completely, we are now trialling the use of the Green D+ fuel with our Mace logistics team, and we've had positive conversations with some of our other contractors that are due to start on site, that they'd be keen to start using that for their plant, to be powering the plant on site as well. We've also had discussions with the Canary app developers, as you can see there. So this app has been developed to provide air quality information to individuals via their smartphones. So this will give individual operatives on site that are predominantly working outside information for their hourly exposure to air pollution. And it will also give the Canary app developers more granular data that they can then study for trends. So we're looking to assist with this with some of our operatives on site for a year-long trial. We've also got an electric concrete pump on site with one of our tier 1 contractors, which we're now starting to use. So we'll be gathering data to do a little write-up on that. And also virtual reality and video calls. So we've also already mentioned use of Teams platforms in this way that we're doing now, but we're also using virtual reality. So we have VR headsets on some of our sites, including at 40 Leadenhall. So these are particularly good for bringing down unnecessary business travel. So rather than people coming to site to do checks, we're able to do it virtually via these headsets. And we've also translated it into community activities. So while we can't have school groups coming around site at the moment, they can feel like they're coming around site by using this VR technology. So we're quite early stages of this project at the moment. We've only been on site for nearly a year, so we've got quite a long way left to go. So these are just some of the items that we're looking at the moment, and hope to obviously continue with these initiatives as the project progresses and to continue support and utilising the resources that Idling Action has been able to provide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynne. Yeah, really great to hear the kind of embedding of air quality initiatives in Mace's construction work, from technology to travel and more policy work, and raising awareness for construction staff as well, kind of centralising well-being of workers. The toolbox talk that Lynne mentioned is something that we offer through our Engines Off campaign. So that is a kind of YouTube video that's free to use. So anyone that can sign up to Engines Off, we can give you kind of toolbox talks, and me or Natalie can run workshops and kind of boost staff awareness. The new campaign, our new Engine Off Every Stop campaign, hopefully is going to boost that level of awareness, so that kind of engagement with drivers, be it in a kind of business context, or be it with the kind of general population, is kind of that much more effective. And that's kind of why we're so excited to launch our kind of new big public campaign, this Engine Off Every Stop campaign. So now I think we're going to take a little moment for a first look at the images, please. So many of you might have seen on Twitter that we've shared these, but I will leave the video to play now. Brilliant, thank you. And we're just going to show the images from the campaign as well for anyone that is yet to have seen them. These are available on our website and on our Twitter at Idling Action. Now might be a great opportunity to share on social media. If you are a Twitter user, if you are on social media, please do share the images that we've posted with the hashtag #EnginesOff. Thank you so much. So first of all, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank firstly our team. It's Natalie and Tom and Steph, our funders at the GLA and TFL, and our creative team, Dog, Cat and Mouse, and also to all the officers from the GLA and from our local authority partners have helped us shape this campaign. Many hands have kind of helped shape the images and videos into what you see today, and we're really lucky to have such great support. Engine Off Every Stop was created to raise public awareness of pollution from idling and its effect on health. From our experience engaging with the public at idling action events, we knew that we needed to help drivers associate a force of habit behaviour with real immediate dangers from pollution exposure. When engaging drivers, we encounter myths and misconceptions about idling, but we can say with certainty whether your vehicle is petrol or diesel, big or small, running the engine at the side of the road produces harmful exhaust. The emissions from an idling engine are associated with serious health conditions, and these emissions are highly localised, and research suggests they build up around and inside vehicles. Only recently are we coming to understand the extent of the public health consequences from roadside pollution. Engaging with idling is a great first step to fixing the problem. Switching off when pulled over or stationary is the easiest thing in the world, and it costs nothing, and all drivers, with the exception of some occasional drivers with specialised machinery, can do it. So in creating Engine Off Every Stop, the images in the video that we've showed you, we chose this angle showing these ominous bags of exhaust to make visible the invisible threat of pollution. This way we can remind drivers of the consequences of idling and include public health warnings. Most idling incidents we encounter at our engagement events is unthinking behaviour. So normally drivers might be focused on something else. It might be their phone, it might be that they're just picking someone up. So our messaging is supported by latest air quality and public health research. We commissioned further research from TRL, that's Transport Research Laboratory, into the exhaust profile of an idling engine, and this research has informed the adverts, and an executive summary of that research is available publicly on our website. A key finding of the report debunks the myth that turning your engine off and then restarting creates more pollution than leaving it running for 30 seconds. So it's definitely worth a read. Now we've released Engine Off Every Stop into the world, we're depending on you and for your support to maximise the effectiveness of its message. So I'm going to share 6 ways that you can get involved. First of all, since sharing the images yesterday, we're excited by the initial response that we've seen on Twitter and the interest sparked around idling as a core challenge to air quality issues in London. Please do join the conversation online, show your support by sharing the message on your own pages and social media accounts, and this will help us reach even more drivers. For this campaign to be successful in changing driver behaviour, we need a sustained effort. So over these 4 weeks, and that's how long we're running, this first launch of the campaign is 4 weeks, we're going to be pushing this message with our 31 local authority partners. We're using out-of-home sites, that's billboards and radio and even ads on petrol pumps, and this will help us reach drivers that might not necessarily be already engaged in air quality issues. Tomorrow, I'm going to send around a campaign supporter pack, which outlines how individuals and organisations can help push these messages. This pack will contain image files for the ads and suggested social media posts. Idling Action owes much to its loyal supporters and volunteers. By making use of this pack, you can help our small team reach more drivers, businesses and organisations that might benefit from working with us. Thirdly, Idling Action London have been working with schools, community groups, businesses and local authorities for 6 years, and our experience and wisdom is all condensed and available for you to download in our toolkits. These are free to use. Just visit idlingaction.london and go to the toolkits page. There are specialised toolkits for schools, businesses, local authorities and hospitals. These include printable information resources, activities, pledge exercises and policy support, the kind of stuff that Mace and Newham and Lambeth were all talking about in their presentations. I'm totally lost where I am. Also, businesses and organisations looking to make a commitment to reduce idling and improve air quality should take our Engines Off pledge. Engines Off is an initiative we launched last summer to engage businesses and organisations. Free resources and support from myself and Natalie are available to all organisations operating in London. We have online training resources, and that might look like that Toolbox Talk YouTube video, and kind of plenty more besides that you can make use of. We've been leading on Engines Off with local authorities and public services, and stress that this is a really important commitment for organisations operating within London's communities. For individuals, please sign up to volunteer with us at Idling Action events. As Sabrina and Lily said, these events are a really effective way of engaging with drivers and tackling idling hotspots. At our events, we prepare volunteers with facts about idling, tabards and resources, and work with them so they feel confident in addressing drivers. These events have been suspended following lockdown and social distancing guidelines, but will be resumed when it's safe and appropriate to do so. Lockdown has spurred us to strengthen our online engagement work, and that's kind of where this Engine Off Every Stop campaign comes into it, so that we can partner our kind of on the ground work when we're able to do that again, when the world's kind of back to normal. With some really good online engagement as well. Joining our volunteer mailing list is a great way to kind of keep in touch and find out more about our work. Lastly, ask your school or business to take a no idling pledge. This is a really great way of maximising the impact of this campaign. Getting a whole school community or a whole business fleet or workforce engaged is a really great way at kind of getting that critical mass of drivers who know about the campaign, who kind of can associate the associate idling with the kind of real world effects, with the public health effects. And we find that our interventions are most successful when we reach a critical mass of support in a local area, which is why we tend to work in schools and kind of very specific kind of community hubs often. So that is our 6 ways to get involved with the project. Natalie and myself are a public resource. We offer school workshops, we offer business interventions, and plenty more support. So do get in touch with us if any of this is sounding like quite exciting. We're available at info@idlingaction.london, and we can kind of field questions from there and put you in touch with any of the speakers as well. Okay, so I think we've now got time to come to our questions, which I know have been coming in the Q&A box. Some of the questions sent to us, which are just loading on my screen, I'm sorry guys. Okay, I've got a question from Louise, which is many business vehicles idle, maybe because the driver is not paying for the fuel. They idle to charge phones or to keep warm. What are businesses doing to monitor this behaviour? Really good question, thank you. How about, as our token business for the group, would Lynne, would you be happy speaking on this question?
Yeah, that's fine. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a Mace policy that there shouldn't be any idling. We have a no idling policy. However, to make sure that we are upholding that, we have a logistics team on all of our construction sites. So this will include people like traffic marshals who are out on the projects and walking around the perimeter of the projects as well. So they will speak to any vehicles that are coming to our site that are queuing up potentially to get onto site to make sure that that is being upheld. We also have a log when we have vehicles coming to our site, so all of them are tracked, so we know exactly who's been on site each day. So if it is that they come up against any issues and they're speaking to drivers that maybe aren't quite as engaged on that topic, we can look see if there's particular trends, and we can escalate that if need be as well, because we know exactly who's been on site and when.
Fantastic, thanks so much, Lynn. Yes, so kind of more education and support throughout a business is really useful. We've heard from a couple of our organisations about some kind of tech responses as well, which could be also really cool. Question from Tom. What do each of the presenters think has been the most effective methods for getting drivers to switch off? I'm going to pass this to Lily or Sabrina. Do either of you want to dive in on that one?
Sorry, Jack, could you just repeat the question? I was reading.
Yes, I'm so sorry. So, question from Tom. What do each of the presenters think has been the most effective methods for getting drivers to switch off?
The most effective. So this is a hard one, because what we are doing in Newham and how we train our enforcement officers is actually to talk to people, to inform them why it is important, why they shouldn't be idling engines, what is the problem with air quality, and start from actually this sort of, teaching and learning and educating and engaging, rather than I know there's a fine as well. There is still the potential of getting or issuing a fine it's still there, but how we wanted to sort of approach, at least for the first year, this program is by actually educating people and see how we're getting on in Newham. Yeah.
Fantastic, thanks, Lily. Yes, I think that rings true to the approach that we've seen in many of our boroughs, that yes, idling is a finable offence, and enforcement is one way of dealing with it, but actually positive education, positive suggestion of why turning off is going to be a really good idea is a really great way of getting through to drivers. I've got another question. Is anti-idling training widely available? Yes, it is. So our workshops that we previously used to kind of go into businesses, go into schools to deliver, are now available as YouTube resources. I will possibly include them in the supporter pack tomorrow. But do get in touch with us at info@idlingaction.london. Thank you. And we can help you use those anti-idling training resources and videos as effectively as possible and as flexibly as possible. Any other questions from the team? I know that some have been published. I've got one from Suzanne. It says, hi, may I ask why it is that traffic wardens request idling motorists to turn off their engine and then tell them about the fine? So that's been answered by Tom from our team. Yes, as a part of the Idling Action Project, we're working with boroughs to support introducing fines and enforcement. That's a kind of another aspect of our work, as well as our education and kind of positive behaviour change initiatives. Any other questions I'm getting forwarded? Thank you. Forgive me, guys, I'm toggling between tabs. I've got one from Monica. Clean Air Day in mid-June could be a useful opportunity to do something as well. Yes, really great suggestion. Several London boroughs celebrate Clean Air Day in various ways, and at Lambeth we run a week of events. So yes, really good opportunity to push some more of our work. And now that we've published these engine off every stop resources, that's going to be a really useful way of getting the getting the message out to, and a great opportunity to share what we're doing. So apologies, because we've had so many questions coming in, and I've just run out of time for to answer everybody. One final one. How is the Idling Action campaign working with businesses and organisations such as chambers of commerce and bids in particular? And how does it persuade the many delivery drivers, coach companies and Uber taxis of the dangers of idling? Really good question. Bids, we're particularly keen to work with bids in the kind of next stage of our Engines Off campaign and to get some pledges. How do we persuade delivery drivers, coach companies and Uber taxis? Does anyone in the team want to dive in on that one? I'll wrap it up because we're running out of time. Basically, we rely on local authorities passing on complaints that they have about idling, that they receive kind of individually for us to build a picture of where the idling problem is and how we can best address it. So we are approaching organisations that we know to have problems with idling and offering them our free resources and letting them know that it's such a great way to take action on air quality, and it's a totally free fix basically that we can that we're here to help with. So I'm going to wrap up quite quickly. Do look out for the supporter pack, which I'll be sending around tomorrow. Please do share the assets. It's not just kind of this few days that we're going to be sharing things. We're really running with this campaign for 4 weeks, and we'll be having another launch later in the year. So do look out for that as well. I would like to plug a follow-up event that we're going to be running on Tuesday the 16th of June, likely at 4 p.m. as well. This event is going to be a bit more specifically for schools and parents with some kind of actions and suggestions about how they can get involved with Engine Off Every Stop and how they can share those resources to maximise effects in kind of local school communities. Yes, info@idlingaction.london for any other questions and for anything that we might not have got round to answering today. Also, if you want to ask something of our speakers, we can field inquiries there as well. Thank you so much to all of my speakers, and especially to Tom for jumping in on Councillor Harrison, because tech issues are the bane of our existence. Really great to hear what you've all been doing and the great leadership that you've all demonstrated. Please, everyone in the audience, do kind of get in touch and yeah, kind of those 6 actions are some great ways that you can get involved more, and we'll be sharing the presentation online later as well. Thank you so much, everybody.